No, there's also a lot of planning that goes into depending on when I have to peak, if I am dealing with any like injuries and stuff like that. But a lot of it is just being in communication with John and discussing like, hey, my body feels like this on this day. I got to do this tomorrow, this the next day. And yeah, just keep going like that and always keep pushing. That's basically it.
I saw that you chose to do like a leg extension to warm up. And I was just thinking that's an interesting movement because a lot of people trash sometimes the machines. Yeah. There's people that are like purists and they're like, functional movements only or whatever that word even means really sometimes. But why were you choosing to do that movement?
That is for knee health. Those are called isometrics. We just get on a leg extension machine, hold the weight up with one leg, hold that for 45 seconds, and that kind of warms up the knee and makes me feel a lot better. And we couple that with like slow squats or drops and that type of thing in order to warm up and be ready for a jump session. If I don't do that, like usually my knees can run into some issues. But yeah, it's super important.
Drops would be just dropping down from a box, like standing on top of a box and then dropping down.
Yeah, we call them depth landings when we program them in. They can be anywhere from like 12 inches. And you want to match whatever your vertical is, go a little higher than that. So I'll go on a 50-inch box, jump off of it. And trust me, you don't know how high 50-inch vertical is until you're jumping off a box that high.
You're like,
and
whoops.
You feel it everywhere in your body. You're like, oh my God, we're not meant to be doing this.
Wait, so do you drop off the box? Or do you jump off the box?
It depends on my knee health. Like if I feel good, I just step off. If I'm outside and there isn't a box that's high enough, I'll literally just jump off, like jump up 2 feet in the air and land into the ground.
John, are you aware of some of the work of Jay Schroeder? Have you ever heard of that guy before?
I have heard of Jay Schroeder.
Yeah, Jay Schroeder to have people like jump off their garage and do all kinds of crazy stuff because the eccentric that landing, is a big part of it, but it's like, man, like now you're just talking about what can people survive.
Yeah, like a safety hazard. Like we used to, it's funny when I first started coaching him, in 2017 or 2018, that was like a big part of the process. And so Isaiah was living in a townhouse at the time in Florida and he didn't have access to the gym that he has now in Florida or had in Florida. And so he's like, hey, so I backed my car up into like a field or something like that. I don't remember what the story was. And he's like, so I climbed on top of my car and I was jumping off the like trunk of my car because that was the only way I could get to 50 inches.
That's great.
Because my goal with him was in that kind of ramp up was, well, if you can't even land from 50 inches, you sure as hell shouldn't be trying to jump, apply force in an elastic manner, exploding upward this far and landing in a haphazard position from 50 inches. We should do a little bit of prep. So I heard that and I was like, damn, I thought 36 inches would be enough. And now, I guess you more or less just jump off of, like you don't always have access to a 50-inch box. Mm-hmm. So what do you do now?
Jump high off of a box?
Yeah, like I literally just jump off into the air and land on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just depends on what I got access to.
Have you guys found anything with like landing on something soft from there? Like, is that helpful or is that like not what you're after because you want that kind of crash landing?
Yeah, I think that there's different times where you would want different types of surfaces. So I'm a big research guy. I love looking at data and stuff. And, if you were to put Isaiah on a force plate, right? And force plates are very, very stiff, right? And you can have embedded force plates. You could put a mat over a force plate. You could probably put a fake turf over force plates. Like I think in the Middle East, they have literally entire soccer fields where force plates are underneath it and they're able to look at every contact. And so that being said, like you would actually be able to see the changes in those peak forces and how you would distribute that force time curve and how the forces would change. And there's certain times where I want to take advantage of that, right? Like an athlete like Isaiah, where he's such a high level, I might want a more stiff surface because I want to see higher peak forces and I want him to be prepared if he's going to jump on concrete, if he's going to jump on plywood, if he's going to jump on something that's less, compliant. Because if I was saying this earlier, like the surface on an NBA court is souped up. Like there's like two major companies. I don't remember exactly. I think one is like Robertson Flooring Systems and like another one that is used by the NBA. And they have tiers. You can go on their website and there's like 4 tiers of these courts.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now we talk all about strength on this channel, but strength starts from the feet. That's why we've partnered with Vivo Barefoot shoes for over a year now. Now Vivo Barefoot, unlike most shoes, number one, they look great, but number two, they're flexible. They're zero drop and they have a wide toe box. If you wear these shoes over time, your feet will get stronger. Now, if you guys want to get some of these shoes, head to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Use code POWERVIVO20 at checkout to save 20% off your entire order. Enjoy this clip.
The NBA gets obviously the most souped up one that's like going to maximize your ability to safely land, and it's also going to give you the greatest performance improvement. And so for him, it's like, well, obviously we don't have access to that, not all the time. And sometimes he's dunking on what is the shittiest flooring you could possibly think of, right? Like just tiles that slide or, whatever else.
Sport court.
Yeah, sport court is just not the best.
Does it make a big difference for you? Can you notice it when you're dunking?
Huge difference. Typically the worst surfaces to dunk on are sport court, concrete, anything where you're like slipping on the floor. The best floors I've ever been on are NBA courts, like by far. I feel like they literally add vertical. It feels like there's springs on the ground, so that makes a huge difference.
So yeah, in short, we definitely use different flooring. I think most of the time it's what you have. If it is a really soft, compliant surface, like if he was like, I only have sand, I'd be like, drop off a 70-inch box. Because sand is more like, it's going to be far more forgiving than you landing on concrete.
Is it helpful for like track athletes? Like they land in the sand pit a lot. Like, is there any research or information on those landings and what that transfers into the body? I mean, I would imagine the absorption's less, but maybe you can do more, and because you can do more, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a psychological portion to it. Like, I wouldn't look at the landing and long jump just because the way that they land is almost on their butt or whatever else. Like, you're going to get a pretty cushioned fall. But I mean, just in terms of how that's changed over the years, like high jump I was a high jumper. I loved high jump. I coached track at Duke, and I coached high jump there. And when I was there, like, I got really into the history of the event, right? And so they used to have just sawdust. Well, when they had sawdust, no one wants to do a backflip on a sawdust, right? And so as the event changed, the technique changed, and guys became more confident. And psychologically, now I know I'm landing on a mat. If I know I'm landing on a mat, like, yeah, I'm sure as shit gonna run what is equivalent to an 11-second 100-meter dash, full speed, plant my foot on the ground and do a backflip onto it. Like, if I know I'm landing on sand or sawdust, there's no way in hell I'm going to commit to such an aggressive approach. So I think that's probably the biggest difference. In terms of like as a training stimulus, we don't really use sand too often. Like, we passed a dune on the way we were coming up, from LA here, and there was a giant dune. And he's like, oh, look at all the footprints. And like, people do that all the time. They do a lot of sand running and stuff. That's really stressful on your connective tissue on your feet, actually. And so I think it has a place, but it's like you'd have to put it at the right time of the year, I think, and at least what I would do. Like my old mentor, Mike Young, he used to do it with his athletes in the gen prep season because it's a soft surface. As he gets closer to the season, okay, now let's get on harder surfaces, right? Where we're going to see higher peak forces, higher speeds, higher velocities, like all across the board. So I would kind of use the surfaces in that way, like periodizing them, I guess, or planning accordingly.
I'm really curious about this because both of you guys can dunk, right? Okay.
Yep.
So Isaiah.
Hey, if you want to make Squirtle squirt, I know you're enjoying this content, so like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord below. Peace.